As you might already know, immigration has been a hot topic in European politics for the past couple of years. In response, the EU has implemented a series of policies to better secure its borders, with its Pact on Migration and Asylum fully coming into force this year, and its so-called externalization strategy, a network of deals with countries like Albania and Turkey, aiming to intercept and turn back would-be illegal immigrants before they reach European soil. And, well, it looks like, somewhat surprisingly, these new strategies are working remarkably well. According to data published on the 10th of July by the EU's border agency Frontex, in the first 6 months of 2026, border crossings into the EU via small boats or other smuggling routes have dropped by 37% year-on-year compared to the same period in 2025, with every route but one, the Western Mediterranean, experiencing a year-on-year decline of at least 20%. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the EU's strategy to tackle irregular migration, how it appears to be working, and what might happen next. If you love staying informed and want some of the best reporting on YouTube, then subscribe and ring the bell for more. So to understand this latest data, you need to know a little bit about how the EU measures immigration. In short, the EU splits immigration into two categories. First, there's regular immigration, which basically means moving to an EU country with official permission, including a work visa, study permit, or asylum application. Second, there's irregular immigration, which is basically anyone else. This includes people who enter the EU without the correct paperwork or without notifying the relevant authorities, as well as people who enter the EU via a regular route but then overstay their welcome by remaining in the country after their visa or authorization has expired. The EU prefers the term irregular rather than illegal immigration, both because not having the correct paperwork is generally considered an administrative infringement rather than a criminal offence, and because if an asylum seeker is granted refugee status in that country, then their immigration was irregular but legal. Anyway, irregular immigration into the EU really became an issue after the 2015-2016 refugee crisis, when record numbers of migrants and asylum seekers moved to the EU from conflict-afflicted regions like Syria, Afghanistan, and parts of Africa. This huge spike in arrivals exposed weaknesses in the EU's migration system, and showed how any action by one member state also had consequences for the others. It also highlighted how under-equipped member states were to deal with large-scale immigration, which has become a major wedge issue at recent elections. Numbers fell back down in the late 2010s, but started rising again after the pandemic. This quickly became a big political issue in the EU, and in June 2024, the EU finally agreed to its new Pact on Migration and Asylum. For context, the Pact aimed to create a new framework for managing migration as a bloc, with a focus on international deals to reduce irregular crossings. The logic here was that by partnering with countries along busy migration routes and paying them to strengthen their own border security, the EU could slow migration flows before they reached Europe's external borders, thereby reducing the overall number of people arriving via irregular routes. In recent years, the top three routes for irregular crossings into the EU have been the Central Mediterranean route from Tunisia and Libya to Italy and Malta, the Eastern Mediterranean route from Turkey to Greece and Cyprus, and the Western Balkans route from the Western Balkans into Bulgaria, Romania, Hungary, and Croatia. On top of those, one new route, the Western African route from Mauritania and Morocco to Spain's Canary Islands, has become increasingly popular. This is why, since 2023, the EU has signed several migration-related deals with partner countries in North Africa, including a multi-billion euro aid deal with Egypt, a 210 million euro deal with Mauritania, and a 165 million euro deal with Tunisia. Essentially, this has created a multinational migration control network that works like an invisible border wall, located beyond the EU's geographical land borders. In exchange for EU funds, these countries' security forces receive training and equipment from the EU, such as radar, boats, and land border posts, to intercept and turn back migrants inside non-EU countries before they reach Europe. The EU also has border control deals with Balkan countries like Serbia, Albania, and Moldova, which allow Frontex officials to carry out operations on their territory. More recently, and to tackle the issue of irregular migrants already inside the bloc, the EU has taken steps to increase its ability to detain or deport undocumented migrants. In June, the Council of the EU and European Parliament reached a deal to enable faster migrant removals, force third country nationals with no right to stay in the EU to cooperate with European authorities, and allow member states to establish return hubs in third countries for migrants with no right to stay in the EU. According to the EU, these centres could serve either as the final destination for migrants or as a transfer centre facilitating the return to their country of origin, or another safe third country. This is a pretty hardline policy, at least by European standards, and human rights groups, including the International Rescue Committee, have expressed concerns that these centres will become legal black holes with minimal oversight. Anyway, now we've covered the policy, let's look at the data. According to Frontex data published on the 10th of July, in the first half of 2026, the number of irregular border crossings into the EU dropped by 37% year-on-year compared to the same period in 2025. Almost every major crossing point experienced a year-on-year decline. The West African route we mentioned earlier, which surged in 2024, saw the biggest drop, 70%. The Central Mediterranean route saw a 52% drop, and the Eastern Mediterranean saw a 20% drop. Similarly, the eastern land border that meets Belarus and Ukraine, which Russia has reportedly pushed migrants towards in order to worsen the crisis, saw a 39% drop. The only major route to see a rise in irregular crossings was the Western Mediterranean route from North Africa to Spain, largely because of tighter border controls elsewhere. Nonetheless, even if irregular migration flows into Europe have fallen over the past 6 months, this doesn't mean that the EU's hardline new immigration strategy has been an unqualified success. For starters, migration flows were already falling before the Migration Pact came into force, with a 25% drop in arrivals between 2023 and 2024, which suggests that other factors, including more recently political stability in Syria and difficult weather conditions earlier in the year, might have been pushing down migration numbers anyway. Moreover, this has all required the EU to turn a blind eye to reports of human rights violations by security forces in partner countries. There have been well-documented cases of migrant abuse by Libyan coast guards, which are effectively militias, since at least 2021, and a shocking BBC investigation published in April found that Greek police have been recruiting mercenaries, masked migrants paid to abuse and violently repel other migrants, to prevent them from crossing into the EU since at least 2023. Ultimately, while there has been an undeniable humanitarian cost to the EU's hardline migration strategy, their apparent success in reducing flows towards Europe has made them remarkably popular in Brussels. Now, as you're probably aware, it's kind of impossible to avoid talking or thinking about the big players that control our world, much like the ones we've spoken about in today's video. But it's not just the government leaders that impact our day-to-day life, it's also the big companies, and how increasingly difficult it is to avoid their influence. So I bet you're wondering how you can start taking back that control, and luckily we have a simple solution for you, and it starts with your email. While it might seem insignificant, your email is extremely personal to you, and it's important to keep hold of what's yours. And thankfully, Proton Mail will help you get that control back. It's a private, secure alternative to big companies like Google, and will give you everything you need to be productive, all while keeping those pesky ads away from your inbox. From preventing dangerous phishing attacks with their PhishGuard protection feature, to protecting your identity by alerting you if your email has been sold on the dark web, Proton Mail has everything you need to stay safe online. They also offer end-to-end zero-access encryption, meaning their emails truly stay private, inaccessible to advertisers, trackers, or even Proton themselves. This means that your email and your information stay safe and secure. No more ads, no tracking, and no profiling, giving you back the control you deserve. Making the switch doesn't have to be a hassle. Proton Mail's Easy Switch tool allows you to move your emails and contacts from your current provider in just a few steps. You can even connect your Gmail account and receive and send messages from it directly in Proton Mail, while you transfer everything over at your own pace. So there's no pressure to switch it all at once. So start using Proton Mail for free today by using our link at proton.me/TLDR, and you'll be one step closer to a fully protected online experience, free from data exploitation.